Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are here to review the Aristocrat's Otherworldly adventure, Survey Gods Who Go Too Far, or Tensei Kizoku no Isekai Bokenroku Jichou wa Shinranai Kamigami no Shito. I probably said that wrong, but we're just gonna roll with it. So, what is the story behind this anime? It's a generic isekai, you know, main character dies, reincarnates in another world, and after that, just, you know, gets incredibly overpowered. It goes on to get some girls and do OP character stuff. And his whole thing is that he's trying to keep it a secret, but not really, because, well, he doesn't really try that hard. He really doesn't. He is pretty happy to show off his OP abilities, but yeah, that's basically the story. So what do I think? And some spoiler-free thoughts. I actually kind of had a good time. Like, I was going into this anime not caring what happened. I didn't care. I was just going into this because I figured I've been reviewing so many different types of anime to watch. I figured why not go back to a generic, simplistic isekai, because I like them. I'm an isekai person. Unlike a lot of people, I really love isekai. Isekai is just one of my things. I really love it. And that's why whenever I go into an isekai, I'm usually not expecting too much. But usually I like to be pleasantly surprised, though more often than not it doesn't hit the like super high bar necessary. But I don't know, just sometimes I really like isekais, and I thought, why not check this one out, because I just wanted to enjoy myself, have a generic isekai to enjoy, and I actually surprisingly really enjoyed myself. Like, yes, it's generic. Yes, the main character randomly gets girls falling for him left and right for no reason. Yes, he has a sister for some reason is in love with it, because for some reason people love writing those into stories, but it's still a lot of fun. I really enjoyed a lot of moments in this, and while it's not perfect, because, well, you know, generic isekais can never be perfect because most of them don't have that interesting stories, I did enjoy myself a lot. There were several moments throughout this show that I actually got a good laugh out of, because this is kind of a mix between an action and a comedy, but mainly a comedy with, you know, generic tropes and stuff like that. And there were actual times where I genuinely got a good laugh out of this anime. And maybe it's because I've gotten so used to this type of comedy that I find it funny, but I enjoyed myself. I thought there were a lot of good jokes in there for just comedic sake, but if you're not into this type of comedy, you probably won't laugh at it. But yeah, overall though, it was fun. There are some things in there that didn't make any sense, which I can go over to the spoiler section about, but again, we'll talk about that later. Overall, there's still just a lot of fun here. It's nothing special for sure. It's definitely mediocre in terms of just regular anime, but I had a good time. All the characters in it, from like the main character Kain to all these other things, I enjoyed myself. But yeah, that's all I can really go into without spoiling anything, so we're just gonna hop to the spoiler section now. Here's a timestamp to the spoilers ending. If you have seen the show, I'd recommend sticking around to hear my thoughts, but if you haven't, just skip to the end so you don't get any spoilers. But again, if you have seen it, I recommend sticking around to hear my thoughts. So yeah, I'm gonna catch up for 5 and enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so to talk about the generic tropes. Some of them made sense and some of them did not. Like, for every single time I felt the show was actually stepping into some unique territory that not many shows I've seen have done, there's something else that kind of ruins it. Like, for example, the show's constantly skipping time, and there's just like, you never know what age the main character is going to be in the next episode, especially since at one point he goes to this other world and ends up staying there for 4 years until he's like 14 to 16 before going back and being back to his original age. And there's just so much time skipping throughout this show, and it's honestly kind of crazy, especially with how the main character just can't seem to decide how he wants to tell his story. Sometimes the story is super fast, like sometimes it's really slow, and it's so weird because I can never pinpoint exactly how the pacing is supposed to go, but I still enjoy a lot of it. Though, I do find a few things really just ridiculous, such as the generic guy saves girls and they fall in love with him trope. We've seen it a million times, and that's no change with the characters of Telestia and Silk, who, I think that's their names. They just, you know, they're just these people who are driving to the capital or something to get enrolled in school and stuff. And, you know, the main character, as I mentioned before, Kain, he's just like, saves them, and they're just immediately like, anyway, let's get married to this dude. And I sit there like, really? Because I've seen so many shows these days where the romantic developments between characters are way more well-paced. There's a lot more of a setup between the romantic connections between the characters. that seeing a show like this, I forgot how easy it was for girls and isekais to fall in love with the main characters. It's insane how quickly they get together, and it's so weird because I've watched a lot of rom-coms recently. Like, I just finished up this one show called The Dangers in My Heart, and honestly, really good show, really love it. But I'm so used to developments between characters moving slow now that I'm not quite used to getting back into the swing of girls just automatically falling in love with the protagonist because he saved them, and I just sit there thinking, that's what made you fall for this man? Really? It's ridiculous, but I just enjoy myself. Then there's other characters who, fall for the main protagonist as well. Well, one in particular, that being the Knight Captain, known as Tifana, who just kinda, falls in love with Kine just because he can overpower her in a battle. And she's all right. Her whole comedic bit is that she's obsessed with battling and that she loves battling Kine and stuff like that, but it's all right. But yeah, one of the things about this show, moving past all that for now, one of these things that I actually have to appreciate more in this show is something quite different from one of the other isekais I've watched recently, called By the Grace of the Gods. Another show I reviewed the season 2 of recently, talking about how boring it was because every single character was way too nice. This show actually kind of fixes that for me, as the main character constantly comes into contact with terrible people, and sure, it's all just to show off how overpowered and powerful he is because, he's OP because of the gods that summon him there, but it's just like, okay, it's just like, okay, there's actual bad people in the world. It's not just all good people, and I like that show does not deal with the same problem, even though there are a lot of surprisingly nice people in here. But then there's some other things in the show that don't make any sense, like how Kine is constantly being scolded. Like, in the beginning, I get it. When he's showing off his overpowered abilities to everybody, he's just being too showy about it. Then his father scolds him, telling him, you probably shouldn't be doing this. Even the king of a kingdom that he goes to is also like, you probably shouldn't be showing all this to people. And he doesn't listen. That I kind of understand it. But then there's times like near the end of the series where he stops this all-powerful dragon that's about to, part of a god that's possessing a dragon, is about to go off and kill a bunch of people for his own little game, and then Kine puts in all of his power to stop it, and then when he gets back, they're all just immediately like, why did you use your powers? And I'm just sitting there like, dude, he just freaking saved all of you. Why are you getting mad at him? Just like, sometimes he'll get scolded for the most random of reasons. I don't know why. It's like a comedic bit in the show, but I get some of the scolding, but not all of it. There are times where I'm just like, why is he being scolded for this? Or why is he being scolded for that? Whereas other times I'm like, okay, yeah, he deserves to be scolded for that. Which, just my biggest complaint about this show is what he literally says at the beginning. At the beginning, when Kine first gets his abilities after saving some girls getting stabbed after saving them, then they try to explain that he has these overpowered abilities and that he thinks that he has to keep them a secret as best he can. And then fails that immediately by showing off his powers to his family. And he tries to like change the stats so that way it doesn't look like he's as overpowered, but he still looks overpowered. And from then on, he really doesn't try to hide it. He's constantly showing just how OP he is. And it's just like, okay. I just sit there thinking, so he's not really trying to hide his abilities. He's just trying to hide them to a certain degree. And it's just like, I don't get that sometimes in shows. It's why I admire shows like The Misfit or Demon King Academy, where the main characters just do not care. They're just like, I'm OP, deal with it. So shows like this where they're like, I gotta keep my powers a secret before proceeding to not do that, just don't sit with me as well. Plus also the show sometimes feels like it's trying to mimic other shows. Like I remember this one scene near the beginning of the series where after Kine decides to pray to the gods, ends up getting sent to the gods, and they decide to chat with him. And they decide to say, oh yeah, by the way, your death was pointless in the end because the guy who was carrying the knife that stabbed you, yeah, he would have slipped and would have been caught if you hadn't done anything, so you just died for no reason. And I just sit there thinking, why would you say that? Wouldn't that just make him feel worse? That he now knows that he could have just lived on, but now he knows that he really didn't have to die, just all that's there. And I get they were trying to go for like a kind of Konosuba joke where, the main character Kazuma in that dies a very ridiculous way, but in this they actually make the reincarnation thing kind of serious, but at the same time I'm just sitting there like, why would you even include that at all? It's not that funny. Like, it's one of the few things where I actually didn't find that funny. I just found it to be kind of stupid. But yeah. moving past that for now, overall, I enjoyed myself. It's not a perfect anime, but I had a good time. It's generic isekai. If you like generic isekai like myself, you'll enjoy it. But at the same time, there are some things in there that aren't going to make any sense. Plus, you never know where you might like or dislike something. Like, for example, when I was watching this, I saw near the end of the series that we were getting some big final dramatic fight scene that was going to occur in the last 2 episodes. And here I thought, oh great, it's going to be like the strongest sage with the weakest crest, where the show is just dumb fun or just like hilariously bad. This one was more just dumb fun instead of hilariously bad, where it just kind of is just entertaining, but then we get to the end and it actually gets to a decently good plot. But no, this actually sticks the landing pretty well. I think it's a very fun finale. It's not a particularly amazing finale, but it's a fun one, and I enjoyed myself. But I would like to complain about one simple thing. The weird time skip element in a single episode. Basically, within a singular episode, Kain goes off to meet the first ruler of this kingdom he was visiting, and that first ruler is in his own little pocket dimension, where he says to Kain, one day in the real world is a year here. So Kain spends a few years there and grows up, and then after that they're like, okay, now that you've trained all this time, you're gonna have all these powers, but we're gonna send you back, shrink you back down to a kid. And my first thought when I saw that was, wait, does that mean he has to go through puberty again? Because I'm pretty sure he was at the age he'd already gone through puberty. And I still questioned why, even though we saw him in his older form, he still had the same voice he had when he was a kid. It might have been a bit deeper, I didn't really notice, but there's this thing in Japan for some reason where they don't really like casting different people depending on the age of a character, because I'm just watching it and I think, okay, he's gonna get older, which means his voice will deepen with time, you know, like all boys do. And then when I see that and his voice is still the exact same, it just like flashes me back to Naruto and Goku, which I haven't even watched Dragon Ball, but I know for a fact that in the Japanese version, Goku's voice is still the same even after he's older, and he probably should have hit puberty. And it's kind of the same with Naruto as well, where it's just like, why can anime characters not get a voice change when they get older? Why are their voices still these weird, high-pitched voices that only really worked when they were kids? And it's kind of like the same here. I'm just in there like, wait a minute, why is this, what? Personally, that's just the biggest gripe to me, but one other one I can kind of think of, like, it's not as big as that one, that one really got on my nerves. But if I had to list another kind of tiny gripe that wasn't like too big, it's just a little small thing that I kind of had a problem with, that would probably be the inclusion of this one. I can't remember her name, but there's like this cat girl who, when the main character Kain tries to summon something, and I think it's either the first or second episode, he ends up summoning it and it immediately tries to go after his sister and this random cat girl who shows up. I mean, the cat girl gets an explanation later on. She's like the daughter of this salesperson or whatever, but she's just random. She's just there. We already explained about who she is. She's just there hanging out with the sister, and then they're suddenly being attacked by the demon. And it's meant to be like this dramatic moment where Kain is meant to step up and be like, I was only able to kind of protect the girls in my last life, so I'm gonna protect them in this life after I summon this thing that is about to kill them. And I just sit there thinking, wait, am I supposed to think he's going through like an emotional situation right now? Like, it was definitely a bit iffy, but yeah. Overall, it's just a dumb fun isekai, and I enjoyed myself. But yeah, that's all we have to say. So we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? It's dumb fun. It's nothing special. It's just a fun anime that, if you're looking for a dumb isekai to pass the time, is perfect. It's just an entertaining show that doesn't have anything special to it, but is fun. And if there was another season, I'd probably tune in, because if I can get more of this dumb fun, count me in. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about that, which is why I give this anime, because I'm not going to pronounce the really ridiculously long title, I give this anime a solid 7 out of 10. Very enjoyable, but nothing in particularly special, just enjoyable enough. So yeah, that's all we have to say. So thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I was going to do Anime Fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!